Oh yeah. Okay, I guess we're good to go now.
We need to come up with an intro because every time we're like, okay, I guess we're live.
Oh, it's funny because it's like we just stumble on. Like, I guess we pushed the button. Oops.
Yeah,
all right.
Whoops, now we're live. Sorry.
If we'll just talk to some random people we invited on, but anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have two guests with us today, and we'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. We'll go ahead and start with Pat. You can go ahead and tell everyone who you are.
Hey, yeah, what's up? My name is Patrick McFarland. I'm the host and creator of the Liberty Weekly podcast. That's at libertyweekly.net. And what I'm really trying to do is fill the niche in the libertarian movement for libertarian and anarcho-capitalist legal theory. I know Stefan Kinsella does a lot of really great work, but he's a little more sporadic with his podcasting. So I do a lot of subjects, a lot of like libertarian theory, libertarian legal theory, but I do current events. So I've been analyzing the Supreme Court with their recent rulings this summer, and had a really good time doing it. Met a lot of really great people, and I was so happy when you guys reached out to me. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be on your show. So thank you guys so much.
Oh wow, that's cool. Thanks for the kind words.
Oh, it's cool. Like what you guys are doing. So yeah.
Alrighty, and then we'll let Dan. Dan, right? That's correct. That's your name.
Dan or Daniel.
So I can't remember. Yeah, whichever one. Yeah.
Yeah, either one works. My aunt calls me Danny, and so did my first boss. But I guess you guys can pass for that too. You know, it's fine. So is this a chat roulette thing? Because I'm wearing a shirt, and usually when I do chat roulette, no shirt. Is that still a thing?
If you want to go shirtless, be our guest.
So I'm Daniel Elwood, and I actually just created a public figure page on Facebook. So you can find me at facebook.com/TheRealDanielElwood, and that has a list of all the things that I work on. But primarily, my show is the actual Anarchy podcast, and there's a normie-friendly version of that called The Last Nighters. And what we do is we analyze popular films from a Rothbardian and anarcho-capitalist perspective. We do a weekly show. And the next one coming out is Planet of the Apes. And then after that, we're doing The Incredibles. And then the Jurassic Park, because Jurassic World's coming out and all that. So that's what I do. And then I have, 15 other websites and things that I work on. But the coolest thing that I do is the Libertarian Union, which Pat is a part of, as well as another dozen or so podcast providers. So that's at libertarianunion.com. And we're all supporting each other. We're helping each other out. We're on each other's shows as guests, and we just swap ideas and try to spread the messages of liberty and whatnot. So that's my story. Stick to it.
Oh man, that movie one sounds awesome. I'd totally be a part of that if I could. I love talking about movies. So, what's in terms of being like an anarcho-capitalist or just an anarchist or libertarian? What's your favorite movie in terms of like the best movie that has those values?
So my co-host is actually the guy who has like the lists. He's like, oh, this is my top 5 movie or top 3 movie. I'm more of, I'm fluid. I'm movie favorite fluid, essentially. So I'm not going to pigeonhole myself, but The Matrix is a good one. I'm also a big fan of Nacho Libre, which we just did a show on, The Big Lebowski. And there's a show that is on Netflix right now called Wild Wild Country. And my co-host is super excited about that. So he wants to do a show on that. And I think Patrick's going to join us. It might be some kind of a special, some kind of extravaganza, because it's a 6-part miniseries and it won't really fit into our 1-hour show format. So look for that. But Wild Wild Country, libertarian themes all over the place.
We should
definitely watch that, because we've been looking for shows to watch on Netflix. And he's trying to make me watch Breaking Bad again. I'm just like...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm terrible when it comes to like picking something. Like, I watch a movie 8 o'clock and then it's like 10. Have you picked something yet? No, I'm still looking.
Yep.
Still trying to find what we're gonna.
So we're always good for recommendations.
Yeah.
Because you can't pick any.
What is that? What is Wild Wild Country about?
Oh, there's so much. It's so great.
It's so rich.
Yeah.
So deep.
Well, okay. Actually, my wife and I have the same problem where we end up spending the whole night trying to pick what movie to watch. So I relate to that. For real. But the Wild Country is like, so in the 80s, there was a guru from India, and he was kicked out of India because there's no religious freedom there for some kind of controversy regarding religious freedom. And he wanted to come to the United States because we protect religious freedom. So he picked a spot out in Montana. Was it, Daniel? Montana?
Oregon.
Yeah. He picked a spot.
BFO.
Well, so he picked a spot out in Oregon, and he decided to move his whole like harem over there. And he was a guru that had so many followers. And so they all picked this. They bought a huge tract of land out in Oregon, and they picked it, and they were going to move out there. And so they did. And it was 19 miles away from the nearest town. Well, the nearest town was like a ghost town, but there was still a bunch of really like old conservative retirement people living there. And the retirement people didn't like that the guru had moved in with all of his disciples. And so they tried to use the power of the state to evict them from the land. And so there's a controversy that ensues. The guru and his followers militarize, and they get all armed. And there's like kind of a standoff that happens. And it eventually ends up fizzling out because it turns out the guru was doing some bad things.
Hey, spoilers, everyone.
Sorry.
But it's basically Ancapistan.
Yeah.
In the 80s, you know, it's like, it's cool.
It's pretty cool.
But both of them use machinations of the state to like fight with each other over who has the right to be in that land, in that space. And actually the guru's people, they vote on it, right? The town decides to vote, and the gurus outvote the townspeople. So, you know, there goes your democracy.
Sounds like a pretty cool show. I'd have to check that
out in Oregon. Yeah, it's Rajneesh Osho. His name is Osho. Yeah, but it's super interesting.
Oh yeah, people are. Someone was mentioning in the chat. It said, yeah, Rajneesh Osho. It said the Tumblr blogger, Osho the Tumblr blogger.
Yeah, Rajneesh Param. Yeah, so it's really interesting, and I think it just kind of it's a real life example of how, you know, the state is the loaded gun in the room, just figuratively speaking. So everyone tries to reach for that power of coercion, and it ends up burning all of them. You know, the Rajneeshis. Well, I guess except the town people, because the townspeople side with the U.S. government. But the Rajneeshis end up losing. So, you know, if you fight over the power of the state, you're going to lose.
Well, what are your favorite movies then? Because we don't want to talk about any spoilers, so pretty much.
Yeah, I'm a horror film guy. I really like. I mean, I guess as you could tell from, I'm a death metal fan, so that's my main thing. Old school death metal, not the newfangled stuff. But yeah, I really like The Evil Dead, and there's not a lot of like statism comparisons you can make, but one of my favorite is American Psycho. That's such a good film.
Oh yeah, and that's what we need to talk about, Pat. You were on our show for the Shining and for Rogue One.
Yeah. The Shining was so fun too.
No, what are your thoughts on Rogue One, since it's kind of a more recent film for some people?
Yeah,
what do you think about it?
I really liked it, but I'm not a Star Wars guy, so what about you, Daniel?
Well, I direct everyone to our episode. I think it was 26. So actualanarchy.com/26. But the movie was pretty good. It was kind of a cool idea to try to marry up some of the, you know, how the plans got into R2-D2 via Leia. But there's a whole lot of logical leaps that don't really make a lot of sense. Like, why did they store the plans in this one tower thing, and then they were willing to destroy it? There were a bunch of, you know, leaps in it, but it was a fun movie and far better than Last Jedi.
Oh man, I do agree. Rogue One was okay. I liked Donnie Yen in it, but I honestly don't remember much that happened in the movie, other than that he was blind and he used a stick to beat people up. That's it.
Yeah, Donnie Yen is a stud. I love him in Ip Man and in Hero, Jet Li's Hero. He's great in both of those.
Wait, so he's actually like a fighter, isn't he? Like he was actually was he in the Yakuza or something? But I heard that he was accosted on the street and mugged, and he ended up beating up 8 people who aggressed against him. Did you hear about that, Daniel?
No, but I would believe it. In Ip Man, he takes on like a dozen people constantly. Like he's always surrounded.
Real life, he did. That's what I heard. I don't know.
You know that they're making an Ip Man 4, right? They're making a 4th one. Like it's confirmed and everything already. Had a script and everything already been.
Well, after Ip Man 3, I don't know how they could top that with Mike Tyson in it.
Well, if you're more of a martial arts fan, Scott Adkins is going to be in it, and he's a big name in that martial arts world. So having Scott Adkins in there, I can't wait because I love Scott Adkins. He's great. He's more in line with like more in the B movie type. Because the movies that he's been in, like the big name, like he's been in The Expendables. I think he's in some other big name Hollywood movies, but he was in the first Expendables, I believe, it was the second one. He was Jean-Claude Van Damme's right-hand man or something. But yeah, he was in that. But yeah, he's a big name in just like the action, where like the movie that he does that it's really good if you haven't seen it. It's called Close Range. The action, the way that they film the story means absolutely nothing. Who gives a shit about the plot? All you really care about is who he beats up and how he does it and how it's filmed. That's it. It's Close Range is amazing when it comes to the action because you see everything. It's not like Jason Bourne movie where you can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. But in Close Range, you see everything. It's brutal. It's amazing. It's almost like The Raid, but I guess an American version, not like the remake they're trying to make or whatever. The bullshit they're trying to make with The Raid or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, that's my thing on Scott Adkins. But yeah, having him in the 4th one is gonna be great. I mean, it'd be cool if they somehow got like another big name, like Jackie Chan, but he's so hard to get because he's so busy.
Yeah.
I mean, in Expendables 2 and 3, they've been trying to get him, and in 3 they're like, yeah, Jackie Chan's gonna be in it, and what happened? He's not in it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know what your expertise on Jackie Chan movies are, but if you want to ask me, I could probably tell you almost everything.
He's like obsessed.
Yeah.
Well, you got Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3, right? I saw he was. I saw the listing for Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, and I think I saw Jackie Chan's name and Sammo Hung's name in the credits. So have they been active that long? I mean, that's crazy long ago. It's like 50 years ago.
Yeah, Sammo Hung was I think in the beginning of the movie, he was the guy that he fought at the beginning. That was Sammo Hung. And then Jackie Chan was one of towards the end of the movie, he's the guy that he grabs on, and then he does the camera goes like a close-up on his face, and he breaks the guy's neck. That's Jackie Chan that he breaks the neck of. Towards the end of the movie, I have to find a clip of it to kind of prove what I'm saying, but I'm sure you'll find it. Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. It's there on YouTube somewhere.
All right, yeah, I'll check that out. And The Raid is a movie we're probably going to do at some point in the future as well on our episodes. We like to rotate a foreign film in every 5 or 6 movies, just like I do a kids movie, or we do a kids movie because I've got kids, and so I'm subjected to watching kids movies all the time. So we try to mix it up. But the next one, like I said, Planet of the Apes, and that's so hot right now because of Roseanne. And it's the 50th anniversary of the original. Came out in 1968 with Chuck Heston. My cold dead hands, Chuck Heston.
That's Charleston. Yeah. Is it Chuck or Charleston Heston?
Charlton.
Charlton? Okay.
Yeah, Charlton Heston. But we call him Chuck, because we're on such good terms with him.
I know
Planet of the Apes is the one, the movie that Roseanne mentioned, right, in that tweet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I love this. Okay, so one thing that libertarians always get. Okay, so when it comes to the left and the right, one of my biggest criticisms of people who are pro LGBT is that if in that sphere, if you're gay, then being gay is everything about you. You know what I mean? You're gay. That's you. That's everything about you, and that's all your interests are is just I'm gay. Your sexuality is your entire identity. And likewise, I kind of see a problem with libertarians is that a lot of libertarians I know are I'm a libertarian and that's all I care about. This kind of displays that we have other interests, right? Because if you're so unidimensional, then you're kind of boring, right?
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I always get like, well, you not care about that subject because you're libertarian, so you're supposed to I don't know, let people just have freedom. But I'm like, well, I still have an opinion on it, so I'm not allowed to have an opinion on things, you know?
Yeah.
I think some people don't understand that.
Well, it's like libertarianism is only about when the use of violence is justified, right? So, yeah, even I got into this with a recent episode I did was there's no right to free speech. And was my commentary on the Roseanne Barr situation, is that, you only have a right to free speech if you're on your own property. Just because I don't believe there's a right to free speech doesn't mean that I think it's okay for Twitter to censor people. That's still wrong. And I think Dave Smith was talking about this too, so I won't belabor it, but it's yeah, I can think that Twitter as a private company, has a right to censor people, but at the same time, I still think it's bullshit,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because people are like, oh, it's a private company, they can do what they want. Okay, so that if they murdered somebody, if they're a private company, they just murdered somebody, hey, I mean, whatever.
Oh, it's against the NAP.
Oh, well, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
No, this is so great because you have you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, right? I didn't want to. Yeah, my wife is not I keep trying to get her into libertarianism, and I feel bad about that because, like I said, I don't want libertarianism to be everything that I am. But at the same time, if she only had more than just a surface level knowledge about libertarianism, we could talk about so much more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we kind of met, our first date, he was like, so taxation is theft. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
So that was kind of the basis of what we were interested in. So
being raped in the ass because of the fucking IRS.
Yes. Yeah.
Go on and on about that.
Well, I guess we can talk about the current climate of politics, because everyone talks about it, even if you're not in politics. Everyone talks, oh, Trump this and Trump that, and porn stars and whatever.
And Anthony Bourdain, people are like, well, I told you so because you insulted Trump once. And I'm like,
oh, man, the pro-Trumpets, man, the fucking pro-Trumpster fires. Holy shit. That's my name for them, by the way, the pro-Trump and the anti-Trumpster fires, because I got that from World Porter. He basically gave it to me.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, they're coming over. You see this Anthony Bourdain guy, he committed suicide. Serves him right, because he made fun of Trump that one time, remember? And it's like, man, I made a joke about him dying, but it was like a lighthearted kind of I think he'd find it funny, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you were being like, well, it serves him right for dying,
Right.
I don't know what's wrong with people.
Yeah. Well, I just got back from the bar with one of my law school friends. We're studying for the bar exam, and it's awful. It's probably the worst torture ever. But
studying for the bar at the bar. That's
at the bar, yeah.
It's great.
But he's more of a Bernieite, I think, and he was just going off about Trump, and I think I connected with him because I kind of said he might watch this too. Fuck, but he knows that I have a YouTube channel and stuff, and he's like, "You think taxation is theft?" But I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I hate Trump too, but the problem I have with Never Trumpers is that." Obama was a shithead too, and so was Bill Clinton, and so was HW, and so was Reagan, and so was Jimmy Carter. They're all fuckers, and to emphasize so much on Trump is just kind of ignoring all of the war crimes that have been committed by other presidents.
Yeah,
well, tell us what you really think, Patrick.
When I see celebrities on Twitter talking about how Trump is the worst thing to happen to our national security, I'm like, you motherfucker, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I mean, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. He's, what has he done in terms of foreign policy that's been good? I mean, maybe 2 things. I don't know. But
it's why weren't you talking about this before?
Yeah, it's there was a thread from a progressive actually who was like, yeah, here's all the stuff that Obama did that was really bad, really bad, like almost 50 things where and that's probably who knows what more he had done or whatever. But his first 3 days in office, oh, he did a drone strike and killed people. Oh, great, thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And don't get me started on Obamacare. Holy fuck, that motherfucker.
Well, and with what was it within the first week? Okay, yeah. So Trump is talking about, Trump made fun of Mexicans or something, or Trump made fun of a reporter who had a disability or some shit. The first week that Trump becomes president, he approves a raid that got a little girl shot in the neck and she bleeds out for 6 hours. And the fucking liberals are silent about that. They're more worried about a fucking porn star. Fuck you. That's just virtue signaling.
Yeah, because it makes them feel good, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh man, see what Trump said? He made fun.
They care more about what he says than what actually happened.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, I mean, and that whole thing about him making fun of that reporter. I mean, he's done that before. He did that motion before, on at least 3 other times. There's videos of it. Of him doing he's basically doing that in terms of saying that the guy or whoever didn't know what to say. So that's basically what he was doing. But because he was disabled, it's an easy target. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel yeah. What about you, Daniel? Do you remember the Trump rise to power?
I do remember how unexpected it was, and my co-host and I were sharing tweets and messages at election night as it was happening. We're like, I can't believe it. This is crazy. This isn't supposed to happen. It's supposed to be totally rigged in favor of Hillary. Like the Democratic National Convention thing was, and it just kept turning and turning and turning. And we're like, oh no, there's no way. It's going to flip back. It's going to flip back. And then as soon as it was verified or whatever, the liberal tears started streaming in, and I was screenshotting friends of mine, from my past life, living in Seattle and all of that, and everyone's pretty much a Bernie fan, and they were literally freaking out, like crying. They were thinking, what am I going to tell my kids? They're going to put people in camps, they're going to kill all the gays, they're going to whatever, and it was just ridiculous, but also terrible, horrifying. Like, this is what your democracy, your representative democracy, your Republican form of government, this is what it yields. This is what it brings you. These were your two choices, and they're both terrible. So that was my experience.
Well, I thought
Schadenfreude, basically.
I thought it was going to be really exciting because I just wanted to, the day after, walk into school and see all my liberal friends just, really butthurt about it and just be like, you put your faith in the democratic process and look where it got you. But I walked into class the day after and my constitutional criminal law professor was weeping.
Oh my
Are you
God.
fucking kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. I wish I was kidding you. He was fucking crying.
Okay, hold on a second. So they put their hands or their faith, whatever you want to call it, behind Hillary Clinton. Are you really? I mean, come on. Oh my God, I don't like Trump. So, I guess to be fair, there are people who voted for Trump because they hated Hillary so much, and people voted for Hillary because they hated Trump so much. I get it. But to show that public display of emotions like that.
What, like crying because Hillary didn't win?
is so stupid. I mean, Hillary Clinton may actually be the worst presidential candidate to ever run for president. She lost. This is the second time that she lost to someone who just came out of nowhere. Barack Obama beat her. Where did he come from? I don't know. Illinois, I guess. I don't know. And then fucking Donald Trump, The Apprentice. Really? This motherfucker's gonna beat me? Oh, I got this in the bag. And then Bernie Sanders. There was actual proof of Bernie Sanders getting his fucking ass raped because the DNC was like, oh, we can't have this guy. And I mean, granted, I'm sure all four of us don't like his politics. That's fine, whatever. But he got his ass handed to him. And what does he do? I'm gonna put my support behind her, even though there's literally proof of her and the DNC backstabbing me in the back. Backstabbing me. Come on, man. And you call yourself the anti-establishment candidate.
Yeah, right.
Get the fuck out of here.
I could have sworn there was an Obama joke in there when you said, where'd he come from? And I was going to throw Kenya at you, but
Hawaii, I guess. Hawaii, maybe. His birth certificate's not real. He still hasn't shown his birth certificate.
yeah, I don't even know, man. Didn't he live in Indonesia for a while? Wasn't that like a thing too? I don't know much about the guy other than, you know, drone strike every day. But
Okay, so we're talking about Trump, and so if Hillary became president, you know, the hell that we'd be living in under her. What do you think? What do you think would be going on right now if she was president? I know it's like a hypothetical, but
You mean like in terms of culture or in terms of politics?
I guess both. Like, do you think the way it is now would be the way it is under Hillary, or do you think it would just be like business as, you know?
I think if Hillary was elected president, we'd be at war with Iran probably already. Maybe Trump getting elected president pushed it off a few months. I'm not sure. Someone made the case that it might have been Michael Malice making the case on part of the problem that it would have been better for libertarianism if Hillary was elected president, because I think there is something to this like libertarian to alt-right pipeline, is that a lot of libertarians switch to Donald Trump. And, you know, although I don't think it's a good switch, but I think there is some truth to that. So maybe that was in the plan, that a bunch of our types would go over to Trump's side. What do you think, Daniel?
Well, I'm of the mind that politics is an evil thing, right? It's all about dividing people and using aggression, though outsourced aggression, against people. Now, there might be the case for some defensive voting, like if you're going to vote no on a tax increase or something like that. But anything else is pretty much trying to subject your will upon others through the force of government. So I'm not a big fan of it. Now, I do believe that the political process does have its merits in respect to like Ron Paul. He ran basically an educational campaign. I wouldn't be here without him. But using politics is basically like begging your masters for freedom. And I don't think that that's really the way it's going to happen. I think that technology is going to advance and people are going to be able to kind of follow a path of agorism and lessen the effects of the state in their lives and find individual freedom. And I think that's kind of how we're going to have to go about it.
So what do you think would be like if politics? I mean, obviously politics is dividing. I mean, look at how we are now. You know, it's so divided. I mean, under Obama it was just going down a fucking downhill, and now with Trump it's
like falling off a cliff.
Yeah, it's almost like what can he do now? You know, that's why I can't remember who it was, but someone said after Trump, we have to have a president who's even more crazy than him. You know, like, I don't know, Kanye West, for example. Could you imagine if we had Kanye West as president? Holy crap. Oh, celebrities, I guess anybody not going to be president. Hell, I could be president. I mean, Jesus Christ. Why not?
Wasn't Kanye tweeting like some Austrian economics a couple weeks back? I mean, at least he's like reading up on something.
Yeah, he's been kind of all over the place, like, you know, with Candace Owens thing, and then saying that Emma Gonzalez is my hero. You know, he's all over the place. You know, so I mean, if he was Austrian economics, awesome. I mean, if he did that, it sounds like at least he's opening his mind or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I wanted to get back to your question about what the alternate world would have been like had Hillary won. And I think that, yeah, we probably would have been more bellicose as far as wars and things like that. But I also think that we would have far less of the outrage culture. I think it'd still be there under the surface, but right now we have this great big villain, Trump, that everyone can get crazy upset about and claim everything is racism and everything is terrible. And, you know, I have this meme and it's amazing. It's the lady who screamed no at the inauguration.
Yeah.
And there's a great YouTube video of that with like metal music and she's like screaming. Patrick's seen it. It's so funny. But so at the top of the meme is she's screaming no. And the middle is, or she's saying, okay, God, I'm fucking this up. Sorry, guys. I know we're live. I'm not good at this. So she's at the top. She's saying, oh, Trump is literally Hitler and cops are killing everyone. And like, it's the worst thing in the fucking world. And the middle is this girl with an AR-15. She goes, that's why I have my AR-15. And then the bottom is the crazy girl again going, oh, what are you, paranoid?
Yeah. Basically
I screwed it up.
No, but yeah, because they're paranoid about one thing, and then someone else is paranoid about another thing, but that person that thought that they're paranoid about that one thing isn't so paranoid about that other thing, and it just makes my head explode.
Right? Yeah, they're afraid that Trump is literally Hitler, yet they want to have him take away all their guns, so they can't, do anything about an oppressive government. Which I don't know. That's kind of like a big deal, right? The government's killed what 262 million people in the 20th century alone. Not including war, that's another 123 million. So, that's a lot of people being dead as a result of a pretty terrible idea.
So if Trump is literally Hitler, right? Like literally Hitler, like the actual definition of literally.
Before you say anything, this morning I was fighting with someone who was, okay.
Wait, I thought he was an orangutan. Wasn't
that? He's both. Yeah, I was caught in the middle between like a MAGA person and a resistance person, and the resistance person was saying that he is actually literally Hitler and that like we're all gonna die. And I'm like, you guys are insane. Like, so people actually think that.
What was the MAGA person saying?
He was saying that anyone who says anything bad about Trump deserves to die.
Yeah, so they're both SJWs, pretty much.
That's fucking insane. What the fuck?
It's like you can't. Okay, so one side is literally the actual definition, literally saying if you criticize the president, you deserve to get shot in the head or killed.
Yeah.
That sounds like a communist, socialist, Nazi regime to me. And then the other side, the resistance, is saying that they're literally Hitler when they don't even know what the definition of literally is. Because if it was literally Hitler, that would mean the actual guy. Trump isn't literally Hitler, okay?
Well, they were saying like, like the deportations and splitting up of families is like Hitler. Even though that was happening under Obama.
Well, you said it was happening under Bill Clinton. I mean, what the fucking Alien Gonzalez was a fucking national news story for like a long time. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares.
I mean, it happened under FDR, right? I mean, the splitting up of families and putting people in camps and stuff. So,
yeah.
I mean,
why isn't George Takei talking shit about FDR? That motherfucker. Remember when I was in the internment camp? Trump, remember that? Yeah, but under a Democrat, you fucking idiot.
Well, FDR is their hero. I think it's because of the Social Security thing and the pro-union stuff. And then who was the Medicare? That was Johnson? Is that Great Society stuff? That's like $5 or $6 trillion to fight poverty, and poverty basically flatlined in the United States as a result. So it's all like we might as well burn the money. It would have been more productive.
Kyle says Andrew Jackson in the comments. What do you mean by that, Kyle? Well, while we're waiting for that, I mean the answer. So the answer to these problems is right. So if government is the gun in the room and everyone's reaching for the gun. That was a bad analogy for this lead-in, but the answer is just to decentralize, right? The answer is secession. If you think Trump is literally Hitler, then make your fucking state its own sovereign nation. I mean, come on. And there's some libertarians that are anti-secession because they think it violates the non-aggression principle, but they're just controlled opposition. That's my position. What do you think?
So basically, the Libertarian Party would basically say no secession, right?
Yeah.
Because they because they want Bill Weld to be their presidential candidate for some reason. Yeah.
Well, the LP is just anti-secession because they're really statist in their hearts. Right. I think there's lefty parts of the voluntarist / ANCAP community that are anti-secession because they think that secession creates a new government. And I'm not always pro-secession, but secession does not create a new government. It only divests power, to a smaller political unit. It's not like you're taking a bunch of people and founding a new government. You're just, it's not like there was virgin territory that you're deciding to impose a government on. No, there was already a government there. We just, divested the power into that political unit.
I'm actually very pro-government. I just think there should be 8 billion of them, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 8 billion, right?
Yeah, whatever the number is, it's changing every day.
That's way too many governments.
Decentralize it.
Well, and this leads me into the next point, I guess, because I'm a collapsitarian, and someone in the comments with the purple The purple, I don't know.
Well, you can't read that, Patrick? Come on.
I can't read that, man. Anyways, I believe the collapse is coming. You know, Ron Paul, Peter Schiff, they all talk about, so interest rates have been at or near zero for about 10 years now, since the 2007-8 financial crisis. There is something coming. You can't just hold interest rates at near or near zero for 10 years and then expect nothing to happen because of that. So we're just waiting for the consequences of that to play out across the economy. And, you know, Trump just signed the biggest spending bill in American history, correct? So we're just waiting for that day. Once interest rates go up, maybe to something normal like 8 or 10%. Right now we're at like 1.5, 1.6%. Once interest rates go up to like 8 or 10, the debt payments, just paying the debt, is going to cost like our entire GDP, or not our entire GDP, but just servicing the payments, the interest payments on the debt is going to take up a large part of the federal budget. And we're not going to pay that back. We're paying off of borrowed money. We're just printing it, you know? So what the fuck is going to happen in the meantime? We're not going to be able to afford these wars. We're not going to be able to afford Medicare, Social Security. Everything's going to fall apart. I hope for a Soviet-style collapse, like balkanization. But I think when that happens, we have to be there with the message. That's all. Yeah, someone is saying International Monetary Fund currency. There's already plans for that. It's been planned for decades. It's called the Special Drawing Rights, the SDR. So the IMF is just going to bail everyone out with the new SDR digital currency. There's going to be no more cash. The dollar is going to be a regional currency, just like you know, what is the Mexican peso, or you know, whatever, what have you. So I don't know, that's kind of that's what I wait for, is the collapse. I mean, I don't want there to be chaos and bloodshed, but you know, the empire's got to fall someday.
Do you think it will happen in our lifetime though, or do you think this is more of like 100 years from now type of thing?
Definitely within the next 20 years. That's what I think.
Got your Miss Cleo crystal ball there.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's got to, what goes up must come down. You know, if you understand the Austrian theory of the business cycle, you know what that interest rate signal, what the saved capital of the entire economy is. You know, the entire economy rests on these interest rates. So you understand Mises, you know, his insights into the Austrian theory of the business cycle. What comes up must come down. The recession is the cure to the bad economic policy of the past. So we really need the recession to clear out all these malinvestments in the economy created by holding down interest rates artificially for so long. And I don't know if I buy in on cryptocurrency entirely. I'm more of a gold bug, although I don't hate cryptocurrency. There's someone in the comments just saying, but yeah.
Oh yeah, someone mentioned Bitcoin. Emos.
Yeah, Bitcoin's a pretty big. I don't know. It's funny because a lot of people, like, you know, cryptocurrency is like, oh, if you're a libertarian, you have to have cryptocurrency.
Well, we kind of have cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good idea to invest in something other than the dollar. You know, especially with how it's going right now. I mean, it's whether it's gold, silver, Bitcoin, or whatever. You know, with the way that's going with the dollar, it's like you're saying, if it's 20 years, 30 years, it's going to happen eventually. You know, but then there's going to be some people, so I'm going to try and play devil's advocate, who are going to say like, well, you're just being a fucking doomsday and you don't know what you're talking about. Look at, you know, especially with the Trump people, look at the economy, the stock market's going, we're doing great, man. What are you talking about? So,
yeah. Well,
people.
I do listen. I listen to Peter Schiff mostly when it comes to this kind of stuff. I think he probably has missed out on a lot of the profits in the meantime from not being involved in #Dow like 22,000. But I think he's right. I mean, investing in emerging markets or that investing in recession-proof assets like affordable housing, or investing in things like moving vans, like rental trucks, or yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty early in my financial planning. I'm 24 years old, so I have a lot of learning to do yet. Yeah. What do you think, Daniel? You're a little more seasoned, aren't you? You're more of a prepper, aren't you, Daniel?
In a past life, I was a bit more of a prepper. My wife and I, we actually moved out to an island, so we'd have a moat around us.
Fuck yeah.
But now we live out in the mountains, in the foothills.
Oh, gotta prepare for the zombie invasion, right?
We're just off the beaten path a little bit, but we got great internet, and everything we need is brought to us now. Amazon's amazing. Costco now does 2-day delivery for free, and you get everything streaming. I've got all my virtual friends online now, Libertarian Union and Facebook and the Tom Woods group and other various groups. I've got my own group for the Actual Anarchy cadre on the old Facebooks there. It's a secret group, Patreon supporters and whatnot. But it's one of those things that you can, with the technology that exists now, you can have a pretty fulfilling life, but just about anywhere,
That's maybe from.
Sorry, I almost dropped something.
I almost dropped something. But
yeah. Sorry. This is totally off subject, but I was going to ask earlier. I always hear about these left-leaning libertarians, but I'm not really sure how that would work. What do you guys think about, like, what would be a left, like an example of a left-leaning libertarian?
Damn it, I really hate to put people in these categories, but maybe James Corbett a little bit, or Vin Armani. I really hate to. I mean, like, if someone claims to be like an ANCAP and they hate the Mises Institute, then they're a left libertarian.
That's hard for me to understand.
Okay, so why do people? I see. There's so many like libertarian or libertarian institutes, like Cato, Reason, Mises, and all that. Yeah. Why is there such hatred towards one, and then some people like, no, I don't get that. Like, I don't know what. I guess there's history, because I heard that if I remember correctly, I think didn't Cato Institute or somebody in the Cato Institute, like, when Rothbard died, they wrote an obituary that was like critical of him or something like that.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand is that Daniel, maybe you could help me here, because I'm not the authority on these matters. But I think that certain members of the Cato, so Murray Rothbard was involved in starting the Cato Institute, and in fact, its namesake, Cato the Younger, was like a Roman statesman, and Cato's letters were really important during the American Revolution, influencing the American Revolution. And I wanted to talk about that too. So we should get back to that. But yeah, so the Cato Institute started that way. But since then, the Cato Institute has been very hostile towards Rothbard, towards the Mises Institute. Members of the Cato Institute have been. And I think it's because the Cato Institute really doesn't hate the state. That's my theory. They don't hate the state like we do.
I think Rockwell calls them Beltway libertarians. Like, they're in Washington, D.C., and they want to be kind of
so the like main
policy and things like that.
So like the mainstream libertarians, like Reason, I guess, would be mainstream too.
Right. They have a couple of really funny guys that do YouTube videos. What's the guy's name, Pat? He did the TSA song recently. Remy. Yeah. That's good stuff. And then Stossel's on Reason now, and I like him. He's cool.
I thought Reason was more left. Like, okay.
Well, the thing about Reason that's interesting, at least I don't know if they do or not, but I hardly ever see any foreign policy articles from them. They're almost exclusively domestic, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but it's weird that they don't like have. I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted like, "How come Reason doesn't have a foreign policy correspondent? Why do they have anyone like in Israel or in the Gaza Strip or something like that? Looking up the Israel-Palestine conflict. But we got to talk about this housing development over here in Chicago. Why?
Yeah,
it's like, it's fine. That's a good issue to talk about, but there's other issues. That's why I like libertarians to, even though they take articles from other places, but like antiwar.com is a huge. I mean, they have articles from other places too, but also original stuff too. American Conservative, I think, is another one that I know Justin Raimondo. I know he talks shit about them a lot, but I'm not really sure what the history is there either. But yeah, it's weird though, because like I was saying before, Reason doesn't really have one, and I'm not sure if Cato has one either. I'm not as well. I'm not as read on them as I am Reason, because I do read Reason more often than Cato, to be honest. But I'm not sure if they have foreign policy people.
Reason magazine has really bought into the social justice, and someone mentioned that in the chat, but it's so true. Reason magazine, like people that I know in the liberty movement who read Reason magazine are unapologetic supporters of social justice. So they claim to be libertarians, but they don't buy into individualism enough to reject social justice.
It's weird. It's weird.
To me, that just seems like
counterproductive.
I don't know. Like that doesn't seem like it could be libertarian then, but I don't know.
Well, it's weird too, because like we were talking about, with they have Remy, who does funny, great videos about the TSA and all these other government tax waste, wasting taxpayer money or whatever. I mean, he has great videos and all that. And then John Stossel's a good one too. But like I was saying before, if they are more into that social justice, that's for sure. But I do see they do have some good articles there. It's not just because it was black, that's why they're doing this. That's why they're so it's okay. Well, what more? What is there? What else is there? Not just because of an identity or whatever. They do. I do think they have some good articles. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying they're like the best place for libertarians to read, but they're definitely a source I think you should go to at least I don't know.
Well, and I have my opinions on things, but I'm really not one to attack people. At least I hope I'm not. I'll say things about people that maybe like just them when I categorize James Corbett and Vin Armani as being left libertarians in my mind. That's not necessarily right. I don't know. That's just how I view things. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
The best place to get foreign policy news.
Oh yeah.
Scott Horton and Foreign Policy Focus.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Foreign Policy Focus and Scott Horton. But when I'm not one to attack Reason magazine, I'm not one to go out of my way to attack other libertarians and pull their libertarian card. Like, even though I have my personal opinions and they might be strong opinions, I really, unless they're really being egregious, I won't go out of my way to attack people because, at the end of the day, I think they're more, I'd prefer to be with someone who identifies as a libertarian than someone who likes Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, So
do you think a lot of, especially during the recent election with, and I'm sorry I keep mentioning Reason or whatever, but Reason magazine was, at least it seemed like it on the surface. I don't know if they were 100%, but they were like 100% behind Gary Johnson. Like, we need this guy. We need to vote for him. And when Andrew Horton was doing those mostly weekly videos, talking about how if Gary Johnson was president, it'd be all rainbows and unicorns and all this stuff. And then I do see in the chat too that I guess Cato does have some good foreign policy. Doug Bandow, Ted Carpenter, they're good. The American Conservative, Daniel Larison, Jason Ditz, Peter Van Buren. I love that. Peter Van Buren's great. But I was mentioning too before about American Conservative. I think it's mostly Daniel Larison. I don't know if it's because he's the editor-in-chief or whatever, but Justin Raimondo, like almost every time he tweets, Justin has something. He has something to say, like, why aren't you being more this? Why aren't you, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really sure because I know Justin Raimondo's antiwar.com guy. So maybe that's why, because he wants them to be even more anti-war, which I'm 100%. I totally agree. And I don't want to sound like I'm attacking. I'm just saying what I'm seeing, and I don't know if you guys seen it too on Twitter or whatever, but,
Hey, speaking of anti-war, weren't the anti-war left supposed to come back after Trump won? And they haven't shown up yet. It's been 2 years.
That's a good point. Yeah.
We're all waiting for that.
No, because like earlier in the beginning, they're all just, focused on,
They're focused on the culture.
He made fun of Mexicans or
Yeah, I mean, they went into hibernation when Obama got in, and now you would think that they would be all up in arms about Trump, but Trump's just doing the same things Obama was doing. So I guess maybe they can't be mad about it because he's doing the same things.
Well, there was the picture that was floating around too of like kids in cages.
That was done in 2014.
You know, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at this!" And then it's like, "Well, that was under Obama," and then it just nobody cares anymore. Oh, that was all under Obama. Okay, we won't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, they're more upset about Trump saying mean things.
It's
Like they don't care about the actual horrible stuff happening.
That's what frustrates me about the Trump derangement syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, is that whenever these anti-Trumpster fires talk, you know, saying like, man, this Donald Trump, when he speaks, he can't even make a fucking sentence. And I'm like, that's your problem? Like, I get it, Bush. I get it, Bushisms. I get it. But I mean, that's your problem?
Well, my problem is I have to defend Trump when there's other things that I don't like about him, but then it makes me look like I'm pro-Trump to some people.
Okay, so a perfect example of that. Just recently, there was that video of Donald Trump telling a Marine to move. Oh my God, the audacity to tell a Marine to move just a little bit to this way or whatever. And everyone's like, oh my God, see how mean this motherfucker is? Or when he was in that one meeting, like one of his first meetings as president, when he was like, you know, he tapped that guy in the shoulder and had him move. And everyone's like, this mother, why can't we even push a leader like that? I'm like, you dumb fucks, man. You don't even, man.
It's like that's the lowest.
They only look at the surface. That's it. They don't like, and also Russian collusion, which I don't know what, is there evidence of that? I don't know. I mean, and then Stormy Daniels. What, really? She made a perfume now. She's selling a perfume because it's bullshit. Yeah. Are you really? And you guys are all about like, oh, anti-commercialism. She's commercializing off of her fame right now. I didn't know who the fuck she was until this whole Trump thing. I'm like going on.
I love it. This is great. No, I agree. Yeah. Everything you just said, circle gets the square. I will agree.
Cha-ching. All right, Hollywood Squares. Woo. Hollywood Square reference.
What do you guys normally do on your show? I haven't actually watched it before, but is it just hang out?
Yeah, we just hang out, talk. I mean, we've had Mance Raider talk about cops. We've had Scott Horton on a couple times.
Oh yeah, he goes on a rant.
Oh yeah, when Scott, it's like me, but the opposite. Scott just goes on. I'm like, just come on, keep on feeding information because 95% of the people who are watching it don't even know what, don't even know it. So
yeah,
you gotta feed that brain.
We went to one of his talks in person. He did a talk in Fort Worth, and he was reviewing his book, and there's just so much information that he knows. I don't understand how he just like contains that much information without
his head exploding. Or
I know.
Something.
It's like, how do you know like the entire?
See, that's why whenever I hear him talk, or he's interviewing, or he's on our show, whatever.
I know my brain is just
like I feel like he just wants an outlet to say it, so he just says it, And then like even if it's like it has nothing to do with the question, he's like, oh, this points to this, and he goes on a 5-minute rant about that, and it's just like, man, this guy's awesome. I love this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I have love for Horton and for Mance Raider and Dave Smith and Tom Woods and Pat McFarlane.
I was gonna say
all these guys.
I heard you talking about exploding knowledge from heads, and I inferred you were talking about Scott Horton. I missed the last few minutes, but
no, that's exactly what we're talking about, because I was going off on, I don't remember, about Trump and how people only look at the surface of how bad Trump is, which, I mean, I agree. He's not great.
It's like you hate him for the wrong reasons. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, they hate him for the stuff that if it was their guy doing, or their how do you say it? Their person?
Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
They're not whatever. If it was their person doing it, it would be fine.
No, it's not person, because son refers to a guy, a boy.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know what the words are.
People now?
Yeah, how dare you? You're
people?
You don't like women now?
Okay.
I do like 3. I have a wife and 2 daughters. I like them. I mean, Gem or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. XY, cis, something. I don't know. Soy, whatever.
You spend too much time on Twitter.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Okay, so do you feel your mental health being in jeopardy because of social media?
Okay. I don't know how she feels. I'll let her say, but for me, there are times where I see I'll see things, I'm like, I got hope for humanity. This guy is telling some good stuff. And then literally the next tweet, I'm like, I want to find the next. I want to find a knife and stab my eye out.
Yeah.
Like, how can someone be for $15 an hour minimum wage without thinking logically that a business can't afford it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, for me, I sometimes where I'm just like, well, I need to unplug and like, you know, engage in real life. So I just will leave my phone for a couple hours and then I feel fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean, because social media is kind of depressing sometimes.
Yeah, it follows me. I mean, if I get into an argument with someone about something stupid, admittedly stupid, you know, that's all that I can think about while the argument is going on. I just think it's so unhealthy to be outraged all the time. It's just unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep trying to quit, but there's a friend of ours on Facebook, and her her URL is like anarchist mom at the end, so facebook.com anarchist mom. So she attracts all of these like communist type anarchists, and they're constantly at odds with all of us you know, ANCAP types. And I just can't but help it to get in there and slap them around a little bit intellectually. It's kind of fun, but I am trying to quit because it is a time suck.
So, okay, so Daniel, please enlighten me. What is an anarcho-communist? Like, how is that even possible? Like,
that's what I was gonna ask. I hate when people do that.
How can someone be for no government but also advocate for the biggest government possible? Like, how does that even pop? Like,
it's not.
Well, they just say you got to read The Conquest of Bread by Peter Kropotkin, and then it'll all make sense.
Oh, really? I got to read something. Oh, okay, I got to do the homework.
Well, I would totally.
But you go to conquestofbread.com and read all about it. It's my website.
I mean, okay, so because I was thinking too when you're talking about Anarcha's mom, I'm thinking that maybe because she's a woman, these communists are like, how dare this woman be against the we gotta put her over to the communist side. So I don't know, maybe because of, you know, they think because she's a woman, like, oh my god, we can change her mind easily, right?
How sexist.
Daniel.
I'm not saying communists are saying it.
Daniel, you have to explain your reference to the conquestofbread.com because I think it went over everyone's head. Explain it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So whenever you get into like any beyond surface level interaction with an ANCOM, they always refer to reading Kropotkin's Conquest of Bread. So on a lark, I was looking for available URLs, and Conquest of Bread, lo and behold, was unhomesteaded. No one had purchased it. So I've purchased it. And now every time that they refer to somebody to read that book, they're going to find my website and they're going to see Murray Rothbard articles about how anarcho-communism is a contradiction in terms and it's a death wish and it's terrible. And, you know, explicit reasons why it won't work. And it's a beautiful thing. And then it's got a affiliate link to Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. So, you know, I make a few bucks if someone buys on it.
Oh man,
that's awesome. That's funny.
I should do something like that, like Socialism Rocks, but it forwards into the Ron Paul Institute or something like that.
It's like five dimension trolling is what it is. I mean, it's like Michael Malice level trolling.
No, like who thinks of that?
Dude, whenever he tweets, like especially when someone dies and he has something like really, really good to say, like when Kate Spade died, and then he had that tweet about, you know, how much a body bag's gonna go for. I mean, it's like that's perfect, you know. I mean, because he has that dark humor, and I like that kind of stuff. So
I love that. Yeah, his Twitter is just a gem. It's a gem, dude. Yeah, but okay, so why don't you guys tell us how you see us getting? Are you guys ANCAPs? I mean, have you accepted the non-aggression principle
as your Lord and Savior?
As your Lord and Savior.
You know, it's funny. I have, but to be honest, I'm not even really 100% sure where I am politically, because there are things like I'm definitely more libertarian and more on that ANCAP side. But
it's hard to defend some things. Like,
yeah, because, you know.
Well, when people bring up like the judicial system or private police, then it's hard to explain to people like your argument. Like, okay, I can kind of understand like privatizing the police. That one I've kind of more studied, so I can argue that. But the one that I'm not sure about is the judicial system. So if someone is really good on that, then that would be great if I could hear an argument for
That guy right there, that Patrick McFarlane, he's got a couple of episodes on it, Liberty Weekly. And then I've also got some articles at actualanarchy.com. One specifically by Murray Rothbard is called Abolish the Police. And it's all about how public provision of police services is trash and private provision would be great. So check that out. I'll send you guys a link to that.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
But Patrick, take it away. I mean, you're the legal scholar here.
Yeah, this is my chance to shine, right? This is my niche that I've homesteaded in the libertarian movement. Okay, well, I would refer everyone to Chaos Theory by Bob Murphy and also David D. Friedman's The Machinery of Freedom. Both great books describing exactly how a system like this would work. But, I mean, I did an episode on this, and I can't find, if you'll excuse me with the typing, I have an episode called Non-State Justice Systems, a Primer. That is at libertyweekly.net/36, where, okay, so in the third world, Amnesty, it's either Amnesty International or some other like global think tank estimates that like 90% of legal disputes in the third world are solved through non-state justice systems. So these are customary legal systems that are created without the state in third world countries. And the first objection you'll get to that is like, they're third world countries, so we shouldn't model them, you know. But the reality is that a lot of these, you know, yeah, it is tribes, but it illustrates that people do not descend into chaos if there is no state. So people tend to figure things out, you know. The fact is that people, in order to participate in commerce, people need like a very predictable system that allows them to plan for the future. So a lot of people realize that just fighting with each other and shooting each other actually isn't very productive, and there's a lot of risk associated with that. It's very expensive. You know, if you're running a business and you want to collect and you just walk over with an AK, you might die. Someone might kill you. Whereas if you can...
Unless it was a good day.
Yeah. Ice Cube. Represent. Anyways, yeah, so these customary legal systems exist in the world right now. And this is kind of how like the world developed in the first place, is that so yeah, but it just goes to show that these interlocking systems of custom can enforce a court system that doesn't have subpoena power, that doesn't have coercive power. So these are voluntary legal systems that you would assent to. And the reason why that you assent to them is in your best interest, okay? So the way that it would work in an anarcho-capitalist society is that we would have different types of legal systems that you could pledge to. So like an insurance contract. So you would subscribe to them. The fees might be as low as $20 a month, right? Because, you know, you're thinking that the entire population has to have legal representation. So the fees could be so low because everyone has to buy the service, right? It could be like $20. So each system has their own rules, but you pledge to it because if you have a contract or if someone wrongs you, you want to be able to appeal to something, right? You want to be able to call in the dispute resolution agency and have them come in and take care of your problem. Well, in order to have them deal with someone else that's wronged you, you have to agree to have them litigate something where someone else is accusing you of something. So it's interlocking reciprocal relationships that are going on. So because maybe you need like a contract enforced or something, you will agree to abide by the rules of your dispute resolution agency, because someday you might have a contract with Joe Blow over here and you might want that enforced. So because you want that enforced, you also agree to the rules, to the basic rules. And so, and this is actually demonstrated throughout history that these systems work. In fact, our entire Western legal system is based off of this precedent. The American legal system is based heavily off of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms that existed in England between like I think 300 or 400 AD until 1100 AD, which was the Norman invasion. So we had in Anglo-Saxon England, we had warlords, right? Their primary purpose was military protection. But if you were a free man, you could pledge to different warlords. And in pledging to different warlords, they had different rules and jurisdictions. And so you could appeal to them for justice. And it was a voluntary relationship where you would pledge like that. And one big objection that you'll get from people is they'll say, oh, well, if you have 10 different dispute resolution agencies, they all have different rules, right? And they won't be able to interact with each other. Well, that's just patently false. In the same way that a train track is the same size everywhere across the world, and Wi-Fi works on every single device, whether it's made by HTC, made by Verizon, or I don't know, Samsung or Apple. They all work on Wi-Fi, right? Well, these different dispute resolution agencies would have similar rules like that. And courts would be able to decide which rules apply because that is literally what courts do. We currently function in a system where the same geographic area can be governed by different rules. And so I'm not worried about that. But sorry, I feel like I've been going on for a while, but that's basically the idea of how it would work, is that these customary systems that you voluntarily pledge yourself to and agree to the rules beforehand. Now, everyone would kind of say that like my mom is a judge. She's a judge. She deals with the law all the time. And I've presented these ideas to her and she's like, well, someone will disagree. Someone wouldn't want to be governed by any dispute resolution agency. Well, I don't think that would happen, because if that person didn't want to be represented by a dispute resolution agency, there would be no way to enforce their contracts. So they could contract with people, but if someone else defaulted, they would be shit out of luck. Likewise, if someone killed them, they wouldn't be able to appeal to anyone for justice because they didn't submit themselves to the arbitration process in the first place. So there's a very coherent theory as to how these systems would work for justice without the state. And there's real life examples literally everywhere that you look. So it's not a big question. But these are all questions I've answered in my podcast before. So I'd point everyone immediately to libertyweekly.net/36.
I definitely have to listen to that, because I think that's my biggest, objection to total ANCAP thought, because I think it's part of like conditioning, where you think like the state has to do this certain function or it's not going to happen. You start kind of losing faith in like humans as, just functioning as humans between humans. Instead, you think that the state has to be there to do that certain function.
I can name a couple examples for that.
Yeah, right.
The post office.
Oh, well.
The DMV. The DMV. Yeah.
Well, and likewise, businesses across the United States have realized that the court system, the government court system, is very inefficient. And so what they've done is there's the rise of what's called alternative dispute resolution. And a lot of business deals are solved in alternative dispute resolution. And it's a non-government it's a private solution. I think the government might endorse the judgments in some situation, but a lot of courts have turned to this private arbitration service as opposed to being stuck in litigation for like 5 years,
Yeah. Litigation takes forever.
And it's expensive and uncertain,
It sounds like with the way the justice system is now, it doesn't sound like that's not the way it is now.
Yeah, it's awful now. I mean, you see the hallmarks of it. You see the hallmarks of the progressive era all over the criminal justice system. And I was just on a podcast with my good friend Kyle Anzalone from Foreign Policy Focus, where we talked about FBI entrapment schemes and the fingerprints of the progressive eugenicist agenda from the early 1900s is all over the modern court system, everywhere you look. So They're all
Okay.
eugenicists. The progressives are. They're eugenicists. That it all comes from the progressive era. The people that introduced progressive thought into the United States were rabid racists and eugenicists. And that's been something I've been wanting to do work on more often, but it's not a hidden history, really. The first book I would recommend that people read is called Illiberal Reformers, and it's by, I think, a Yale lecturer. So it's from an Ivy League school that documents the eugenicist origins of the progressive era. So
Yeah, if you could write that in the chat, that'd be great, so that people could look that up.
yeah, I might have the book right here, actually.
And then Rothbard's new book is called The Progressive Era, so that might be a good one to read right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the book right here, Illiberal Reformers. I'll put it in the chat as well, but Thomas C. Leonard, he's I think either a Yale or, oh, it's a Princeton. He's a Princeton lecturer, so it talks about the progressive era and how actually, ironically enough, the University of Wisconsin was a hotbed for eugenicist thought in the progressive era. I say ironically because I'm from Wisconsin, but ironically too, because Wisconsin was the only state Wisconsin famously nullified the Fugitive Slave Act as well. So that's a proud history of Wisconsin, but the eugenicist history isn't proud either. And also we were home to the John Birch Society too. So, and McCarthyism.
And cheese and Brett Favre.
And cheese. Brett Favre is from Mississippi.
I know, but he was in Green Bay for, like 12 years or whatever.
I love Brett Favre. I grew up with Brett Favre. I like Aaron Rodgers too. Aaron Rodgers kind of comes across as being an asshole, like a self-righteous asshole. But Brett Favre, man, yeah.
I just loved him in There's Something About Mary, and they called him Favre in there. So there you go. All right, so I actually have a Hoppe quote I pulled up from actualanarchy.com/quotes. I put a bunch of quotes in there, and this is about having a monopoly justice provider, and this might sway you. Maybe. So if an agency is the ultimate judge in every case of conflict, then it is also a judge in all conflicts involving itself. Consequently, instead of merely preventing and resolving conflict, a monopolist of ultimate decision-making will also cause and provoke conflict in order to settle it to its own advantage. That is, if one can only appeal to the state for justice, justice will be perverted in the favor of the state, constitutions and Supreme Courts notwithstanding. So it basically says that there's an incentive, if they are the ultimate arbiter, to whittle away what the true meaning of justice is in their own favor, so that over time you get this creeping growth in state power, which I think is borne out by history.
Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a deep quote. But you can kind of see that with the way that police is treated. How, when something happens, something bad happens, they go on like paid leave and nothing really happens to them.
They investigate themselves.
Yeah, and I think only one time that I can remember recently where a cop was actually fired because of an incident that I think because they hit someone with their car.
Yeah.
Or something. They actually got fired. But other than that, paid leave. I don't know if that has anything really to do with it, but it kind of shows that they have there really is no accountability. So like in the justice system, there really isn't a lot of accountability in terms of, we made a mistake. Oh, well, tough luck. I don't know.
Responding to someone in the chat, sorry. Yeah, the whole idea of giving, so you give the state the sole power to litigate disputes, and you give them the power to litigate disputes involving themselves. Not litigate, sorry. You give them the power to arbitrate disputes involving themselves, and you think that they won't rule in their own favor, that's the essence of the Hoppe quote, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, and I think it goes even to a bigger level. The whole three branches of government, checks and balances. Well, it's the government checking the government checking the government. It's a circle. It's a big circle jerk, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even really thought about that because you don't really think about that because like
They try to make them look like they're all separate, but they're all still the government.
yeah.
So
I mean, like, what would you do then if you were going to have a checks and balances? Like, we just have like a local person come in and investigate then, or someone that's specifically for, okay, if something bad happens, I'm the independent investigator for this particular issue or this particular department, but I live in like Maine or something because I don't actually see what's going on. Would that be like something that could be done, or am I like just kind of like touching the surface, or am I way off?
Well, I think the essence of the essence of ANCAPism, and I don't think that would work. No. But the essence of ANCAPism or voluntarism is just that the problem always comes down to you can't assign rights that you don't have. And forgive me if you guys have already heard this argument, but if I don't have the right to stop someone on the road, because they had a tail light out, then how could I give a police officer the right to do that? And you probably heard this before. If I don't have the right to collect taxes, if I don't have the right going door to door, taking money from people to collect things that I want that might perhaps benefit them in some abstract way, then the police can't also do it. The IRS can't do it as well. So what we're trying to do is put everyone on a level playing field. Just because a police officer puts on a costume and pretends to be part of the government group doesn't give him any power to do anything that I don't possess as a private individual myself. And if you apply that consistently, you get no government. So to answer your question, the problem with that situation is the fact that you are giving a certain legitimacy to a certain group of people to that private individuals don't also have. So if you trust the power of legitimate aggression with a certain group of people, because all aggressive violence is just illegitimate by nature. But when you give that power to initiate aggression to a certain group of people, you're gonna have a bad time. To quote South Park,
Have a bad time.
You're gonna have he French fried when he should have pizzaed. So to sum it up, when you give the power to legitimately instigate violence to a certain group of people, you French fried when you should have pizzaed, and you're gonna have a bad time.
That's deep, man.
Could I state that any better, Daniel? I mean, you've heard these arguments before ad nauseum too, so.
No, yeah, you talk my ear off all the time. I mean, you're gonna convert me one of these days to be an ANCAP.
I don't convert anyone. That's not I don't feel that I'm a good converter. I just postulate and stroke my own ego.
Well, let me ask you, kind of going a little off the rails here, but like, what got you into this whole political spectrum that you guys are on?
And what made you into it more like an ANCAP libertarian?
You go first, Daniel. I've been running my mouth too much.
Well, it's a long story, but it basically goes back to I've kind of always been a contrarian. And as Patrick alluded to previously, I was a bit of a prepper after the 2007, 2008 stuff. And that's when I started hearing about this guy, Ron Paul. And we moved to an island, and I bought the Mises Institute 52-week course in Austrian economics, and then got introduced to Rothbard and Tom Woods and Ralph Raico and all of those types, and just kind of continued following down that path and ended up into the logical conclusion of basically aggressive violence is not okay. Okay. And that basically rules out a government. So here we are, ANCAPism, ANCAPistan.
All right.
Should I go?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, I came out of the womb a libertarian.
Oh, there you go.
I've heard.
That's easy.
Actually, I grew up a Republican, but I was always a liberty Republican. Like, I always really liked the founding fathers. I always really liked the Constitution. I always really liked liberty. my uncle or my grandfather was a John Birch Society. He was a member of the John Birch Society. He held fucking meetings in the garage of his place. So, I mean, I came from that paleo background, that paleo conservative, like founding fathers loving conservative kind of liberty Republican. And when I was a teenager, I liked Obama in 2008 because I didn't know anything about anything, because he was black and he was young, you know, he was different, change. And I was a freshman in high school. And then I don't know, I was always like libertarian, just talking about the free market and people having their liberty and shit like that. Then I discovered Ron Paul in college from a pot smoking friend that I had who also went to high school with me. And then I moved into a house full of guys, roommates, my senior year in college. And one of them was an ANCAP, unbeknownst to me. And I went into the living room and I was like, oh yeah, are you a libertarian? Like, I read Reason magazine too. And I heard about this Ron Paul guy or whatever, and he was like, oh yeah, Reason magazine, because he was really an ANCAP, you know, he didn't like Reason magazine. And so he introduced me to Stefan Molyneux. He introduced me to Ron Paul. He introduced me to the non-aggression principle. And it was, you know, although I don't endorse everything about Molyneux today, back in the day, Molyneux was the best conveyor of the message. And I think he gets a little culty at times. So I don't fully endorse Molyneux, but he really explained the ideas in a way that made sense to me. And I remember the very moment where I really accepted anarcho-capitalism, and that was his video, The History of Your Enslavement, or The Story of Your Enslavement or something. And it just floated the idea that governments are really just, that the only profession in the only profession in the history of the world, the oldest profession is farmers, is farming at the beginning of civilization. It's just that has kind of evolved, and now the livestock to be farmed are humans, and the people at the reins of the government are the ones who are the farmers, and we're all just tax cattle. And I'll include we should include a link to this, the history of your enslavement, in the show notes page. But that's what really won me, is because just realizing that, you know, the purveyors of government and the political elites are parasitic, and they hand out benefits, and they make part of the livestock rely on the state, so that the livestock knows they rely on the state, so they will defend the state against the other livestock who wish to be free. So yeah, long story short, that's how I came to it. And now, you know, 2 years later, I'm freaking doing a liberty themed podcast instead of studying for the bar exam or studying for law school.
So what is it about Stefan Molyneux that you don't like anymore?
Good question. I do like Steph. There was some stuff with the defooing, to be completely honest, that kind of weirded me out. I think he has crazy cult eyes too. When you look into him, you know, the Heaven's Gate cult was led by a leader called Doe, and he had real crazy eyes, right? Like real crazy eyes. And Steph really struck me as having those crazy eyes. And plus, my wife hates him, and she'll like complain every time I watch one of his videos.
Patrick, crazy eyes and an argument.
Oh, that's not an argument.
Not an argument.
Oh yeah, of course it's not an argument.
That's so okay. So you don't like Stefan Molyneux because you're, you know, the eyes or whatever.
Well,
so
also, he embraced Trump, and I just anyone who embraces a political candidate, even if it's for pragmatism, even if the end result is liberty. And also, like, Steph kind of turned into a bordertarian, and I'm not for closed borders because that necessitates state aggression, and the ends do not justify the means. And if we can't trust the state to take care of, you know, anything, why should we trust the state to take care of borders? Because fuck that, you know, because there's like in a 100-mile radius across the borders where the Bill of Rights doesn't apply. And, you know, it's aggression. State agents violate the non-aggression principle. They put people in cages. That's fucking wrong. I don't care what the end result is, you know? And there's no evidence that that immigrants vote any more for bigger government than, you know, domestic Americans. I don't think there's any evidence to support that, because fucking domestic Americans vote for bigger government all the time. Literally every single election. We lose every election. So, yeah, what do you think, Daniel?
Well, I think voting in general is losing and giving up freedom. So, yeah, I'll agree. Circle gets the square. We're still playing Hollywood Squares here, and I'm still wearing a shirt.
So you're
Chat roulette.
going to go with the Dave Smith argument that voting is wrong.
Okay.
Now, Adam Kokesh tried to tell me that voting is sort of like a firearm. It can be used for good and it can be used for evil, and it depends on what you're pointing it at. You know, and I sort of see that a little bit, and that's where I have a little bit of room for the defensive voting and, of course, the Ron Paul type of political campaign.
So, okay, that's another thing I have a problem, I guess, with ANCAP. I can't justify the open borders thing, because if you don't have borders, you don't have a culture. So how can you protect liberty if nobody thinks like you? Here we go.
No, that's okay. I think you can have a culture when there's, you know, I think there is a difference between a nation and the state. I think nations do exist apart from the state. Even Rothbard stated that in some of his essays about this question about secession in general. He realized that, you know, the nation and the state are separate, but I think that we could retain our, like, so I do have concern that, you know, there's a difference between free market immigration and the immigration that we see, because the immigration that we see is the state. The state has bombed the shit out of countries. You know, the state in itself is behind the entire migrant refugee crisis. I mean, we destroyed Libya. Hillary Clinton destroyed Libya and caused all these North Africans to, you know, go into Europe. So I do agree with you, actually, that, you know, there is a problem with open borders when you have the state importing people. But the solution to that, we already know. That's end the war on drugs, stop bombing countries into oblivion, stop Hillary Clinton from destroying Libya. So I do understand what you're saying, and I agree with it, because I don't think that you can have a culture exist when you're importing and changing the demographics like that. So I would say, yeah, I do have concern for that, but we know what the answer is. We know that we need to stop importing people and the welfare magnet, you know, and the war on drugs that causes conditions to be so terrible in South America and in other places that people need to come to the United States, and stop bombing people into oblivion, and stop, you know, overthrowing secular dictators that causes slave markets. People are being sold for $400 a head in Libya right now. You know, if I was Libyan, I would want to come to Europe too. I would, you know, it's so bad that people want to swim across the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. So I think the answers are straightforward. We don't have to give the government more power to solve this problem. And I think a lot of libertarians agree with me. Not that that makes my argument better, but that is Ron Paul's position. That,
So,
yeah.
I was just going to ask, what do you think about, like, do you think those types of solutions, let's say, for example, ending the welfare state, which I'm supportive of, obviously, but would stop economic immigration, though, because we have a pretty good economy, like, compared to Mexico or something? Like, do you think that would end that type of thing, or
well,
like, how would you solve that type of immigration?
If people were coming here solely to participate in our economic system, I don't think that's a problem at all. In fact, I would welcome them. You know, people who are coming here to participate, you know, they're coming here for economic reasons. That's the best reason for them to come here, because they can provide goods and services, you know, at a more competitive rate than whoever is here. There's opportunity for them. I don't see that as a problem.
I guess maybe like the language thing too, though, because like then wouldn't our? I mean, I guess English is not really our national language in the United States anyway, but I think a lot of people are concerned about whether our culture would be preserved if other cultures would be migrating here for economic reasons. I mean, I guess the one that's happening in Europe is mostly because of the West bombing Middle Eastern countries, and then they end up refugees and they end up coming there, and then the economic migrants try to, I guess, like disguise themselves as refugees, so then that ends up happening. But I don't know, I guess the one thing I just can't rationalize is like you still can't have like a culture where everybody agrees on everything. I mean, I guess I'm like arguing with myself now, but I guess maybe decentralizing everything would be the only answer to that, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't want to knock anyone for having, you know, concerns about the culture, because I have the same concerns, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that's hard to work out.
Yeah, but I definitely agree that if we ended the drug war and we ended the the other wars too.
Yeah, like bombing other countries that are not.
That would definitely help. You know, that would definitely help the situation for sure.
But that's not a satisfying answer, you know, because everyone, you know, wants action. And what are the prospects of realistically ending the war on drugs or ending the welfare magnet? And I think that's the problem that a lot of like pro-borders people would present is like, okay, well, how realistic is it that you would end the welfare magnet, the drug war, and our foreign interventions? Well, I would just say, you know, in order to secure the border, you got to think of the cost, man. Like, you would give so much more power to the state to abridge our rights. You got to think of all the pensions it would take to pay all of the border agents. You know, you gotta buy all their weapons. You got to buy all their equipment. You got to have a militarized force on the border. And at the end of the day, we can't even keep drugs out of federal prison. How are we going to keep people out of the United States? You know? So, Daniel?
Yeah, what do you think?
You rang? Well, I do believe it is a contested issue, hotly contested. I am not for giving the state any additional powers. And I think that if we were in truly Ancapistan, everything would basically have a border. Everything would be private property, and you would be able to dictate who is permitted in your own private property. And it would be an invite-only basis. You would need permission to be in someone else's space. I think that having public property creates this tragedy of the common situation, and that the government is a bureaucratic model. It's not a competitive market-based model. So they have no incentive to do a good job. In fact, they're incentivized to do a crap job because it justifies bigger budgets, bigger staff, more power. That's how it works. And that's why you don't see these programs go away. You see them grow. You don't see admitted failures. You see, oh, we just needed more money. We just needed more authority. So I think that for me, giving the state any more power is a bad thing. I don't know what the solution is for the interim phase. I know that Hoppa's put out a 10-point plan, I think, in his talk in Turkey, and a lot of people have run with it and basically are making the argument that the taxpayers or the incumbent people who live in the local area have essentially homesteaded or have a higher claim on that disputed property than others who have not paid taxes to it or are foreign to that area. And I think that though that might have some surface merit, I think it's a tenuous kind of argument. I don't think it really holds water. I think that it would just justify more state violence, and I have to oppose that.
Yeah, so we love Hoppa. We love Hoppa's argumentation ethics, and we love his support for Ancapistan. But yeah, what Daniel just said. But let's turn the tables. What is your guys's ideal society? What is your end game?
I mean, other than just a bunch of half Asians, right? That was your
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, we started our name based on that, but I guess we're kind of on a journey trying to figure out what that is, because I'm like 50% of the way to Ancapistan, I guess, but I guess I'm not fully there. And I've been to like a couple of like some of the meetings around here where people like we'll talk to people in real life about this kind of thing, but it's hard. I think it's hard for me to imagine because of so many people don't understand those concepts, so it seems somewhat unrealistic, I guess, because like a lot of people are so used to government being in their lives, so it's just hard for me to see how that would happen.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see life without like some kind of government presence. Or
yeah,
I totally understand that, and I was right there. I think one thing that ANCAPs and voluntarists failed to really think about is that they failed to remember their own journey to ANCAPitalism, or to voluntarism. And it's a journey. That's what it is. It's a journey of personal discovery. It's a major shift in how you view the world. And that's a very emotional, personal journey. So I totally understand that. And I think that one thing ANCAPs need to do is be more personable when they try to explain these ideas, because we just resort to calling people statists and fuck you, you support aggression, fuck you. But, people are at different parts of that journey, and we need to remember that we were also on that journey once. So I think I've been speaking this whole time just assuming that you guys were also ANCAPs. So like, yeah, I'm addressing the ANCAPs who are watching, but I didn't realize that there are people who are watching who aren't ANCAPs yet. So
yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of us are INTJs, so we are kind of jerks.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not an INTJ. I'm the arguer, right?
If you guys are interested in another book recommendation, Rothbard's For New Liberty basically takes all the arguments away. He solves for all the arguments that you could conceive of, that it might get you all the way there. It's a super good book. You've read that one, right, Pat?
Which one? Sorry.
For New Liberty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry. What did you say?
I said I keep hearing about that book, but I still haven't read it.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And Rothbard actually runs through the entire like history of his ideas, so you know exactly where he's coming from, exactly where libertarianism is coming from, the epistemology of our strain of thought, I would say.
So this is kind of a dumb question, so apologies, but like anarcho-capitalism and voluntarism, they're not the same thing, right?
Or are they?
No, I view them as the same thing. And I guess I don't want to speak for Daniel, but I view them as being the same thing. Although I have shed the term anarcho-capitalism because it implies more of a right-leaning philosophy, whereas I'm a centrist ANCAP. So people who are more on the right will refer to themselves as ANCAPs, and people who are a little more in the center or on the left will say voluntarists. I have shed the term ANCAP because with everyone, the term capitalism really invokes a negative response. And the term capitalism itself was coined by Karl Marx as a critique of capitalism. So I don't like the term capitalism. I think voluntarism really encompasses it, because what we really want is just voluntary interactions universally. What do you think, Daniel?
I'm fine with ANCAP. It's easier to say.
That's true.
Easier to call yourself an ANCAP.
Yeah, though, capitalism, when you get in debates with people, they'll have this crazy notion that it means imperialism and cronyism and big business taking over, and it means wars and all of these things. People will make the argument that it's businesses that are directing the powers that be to do foreign interventions, to open markets for our products and things of that nature. When, to me, And I think that this is really all it is it's just voluntary exchange. It's just mutually beneficial trade. And that's what civilization is built upon. Anything other than that is savagery, you know? It's violence, it's coercion. And so capitalism does get tainted, but when I dial it down in my debating with people that, okay, let's just talk about mutually beneficial trade, just voluntary exchange. Do these critiques still apply? And they don't, they fall away.
Have you heard of Candles in the Dark? Larkin Rose's seminar, guys?
No.
So Candles in the Dark is Larkin Rose's way of trying to talk to status. The parable is that, so we all live on a street corner, right? Let's say you guys live there, I live there, Daniel lives there. You guys and Daniel want streetlights on your street corner. Would you be, and I don't, I'm the only one. I'm the one out of 4 of us that don't want the streetlights. So what would you guys be willing to do to me to make sure that I pay for the streetlights that you guys want, but I don't? You know, would you try to come to my door and convince me that streetlights are a good idea? You know, what if I say, fuck you, I don't want streetlights? Would you guys come to my door with a gun and put it in my face and say, hey, pay for the fucking streetlights?
We outvoted you.
We outvoted you. So, and a lot of people, then you kind of get into a lot of people will say, no, of course I wouldn't come to your door. But you need to make it personal. You need to make it personal and upfront. What would you do to me if I don't want to pay for your wars? Or if I don't want to pay for your Social Security? Or if I don't want to pay for whatever the fuck you want me to pay for? You know, at the end of the day, and then people will get into, oh, well, there's this thing called the social contract. And it means that you agreed to whatever I want to do to you because you didn't move out of the country by the time you were 18. You know?
I heard that.
Well, they'll say, you know, and then I get into, well, there's actually, you know, there's rules for contracts. If you get into law school, you learn that there's rules, very stringent rules for how a contract can come into being. And the social contract does not abide by any of those fucking rules. So,
dude.
Or they will say like, oh, well, yeah, well, you conferred a benefit from this contract. Well, you know, oh, okay, yeah, so we taxed you involuntarily. We use that to pay for the streets or pay for policing. Well, you got a benefit from that, so therefore taxation is not theft, right? Well, you know, slaves on plantations also receive benefits from their slave masters. That doesn't make it, you know, any more moral or just or right that they were being enslaved. You know, slaves got clothed, they got food, they got fed, they also got housing, you know, so I don't see that as a thing either. Or a lot of people will say like, oh, but, you know, who would build the roads if we didn't have a government, or who would, you know, provide all these things? Well, before freeing the slaves, the abolitionists didn't say, well, who would pick the cotton? If we didn't have slaves, who would pick the cotton?
Yeah.
That might have been a major problem for the South before they emancipated the slaves. Well, we know by now, you know, if in 1860 someone came about and said, well, you know, without the slaves, we'd have giant metal reapers that just go across the fields and they're powered by like exploded dinosaur gunk, you know? And I can't claim credit for that analogy, but
That's Stefan on you.
It might also be Dave Smith, but I think it is Stefan. Yeah.
I remember listening to a video like that recently, so I'm pretty sure it's Molly.
Yeah,
So I was laughing. I was like, it just sounds ridiculous.
It's funny because like with you listen to a lot of his relationship stuff.
I like his relationship stuff, but I didn't really get it too much into his anarchy stuff, which is weird because that's what most people listen to.
Right.
He's so good on his anarchy stuff. Like, I don't mean to discredit him because I disagree with him on a few certain things, but I mean, it'd be totally wrong to deny his influence on me, I think.
Yeah, there's this one video from Keith Knight that he has, that red pill video. It's like 5 hours long, and Stefan Molyneux is prominent in it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, so Keith Knight and I are are decent friends, and we've done a lot of shows together. So I'm so happy that, excuse me, sorry. I'm so happy that he's getting the attention he deserves, because Keith Knight is like a fountain of information and resources that we all need to pay attention to. So check out his YouTube channel if you search Keith Knight.
Yeah, he was just on Tom Wood's show, I think.
Yeah, he was. Very deserving, yeah.
Yeah, and he had Larkin on with him a couple of times, and then you've had him twice, or he's had you twice, the phrasing, but...
Daniel, yeah. Oh, Keith has had me a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah, we should definitely try and get him on though.
That would be amazing.
No, you should. He will just bowl you over and bludgeon you with arguments and facts. Like, that guy, he's unreal. He's on a different level.
Yeah, he's intense, man.
He's intense. I love him. Good buddy. Yeah. Actually, he's the only member of the Libertarian Union besides Trey who has my cell phone number.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's special.
Very special, man.
Very special.
Wait, Keith's in the loo? I didn't know this.
No, he's not in the loo, but he still has my cell phone number because we're.
Oh, okay.
You don't even have my cell phone number, Daniel.
You know, it's funny that you know, we talk about all these libertarian issues and, like, you know, identity and all that stuff, but what are your thoughts on and we're gonna have to end it here shortly, so I wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts are on conservatives, because because Ben Shapiro is also in that video of his, but that's because he talks about what capitalism and socialism. You know, socialism is rape and capitalism is consensual sex, which is, you know, pretty good analogy. But other than that, what I mean, you know, in his, you know, other arguments, but when it comes to foreign policy and identity, Ben Shapiro can be like the worst person you can ever hear.
Yeah, he's just pro-Israel all the time.
But yeah, so like, other than him, like, what are your general thoughts on conservatives? Because, you know, my dad is for sure conservative, and
he's watching this right now.
and you know, we have a lot of conservative people who you know, who follow us. So I'm kind of want to know your thoughts on conservatives, because I like them. I like some of the things they say, like in terms of, you know, oh, something else, but then you see how they are, and they're just as bad when it comes to, you know, social justice, whatever, like Charlie Kirk. You can even put Candace Owens on there too if you want, you know, but I don't know, like, you know, Michael Malice put it best. Conservatism is progressivism driving a speed limit. And that's basically what they are, because gay marriage was an issue, you know, right? And they were fighting tooth and nail. Gay marriage, no, we don't want that. Now nobody cares. What have they accomplished? Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to conserve. I came from a conservative home, so I understand the conservative mindset. The most dangerous part about conservatives is that they worship police and military, in my opinion. The police are not your friend. They're here to enforce the law. They're here to do whatever their overlords say, and they do it. You know, you can say that there's good cops and the bad cops are only bad apples, but we're all the good cops, you know, calling out the bad apples. I don't know about that. I don't know how you can be a libertarian and support the police, because the police are the ones, they're the agents of the state. You know, if they're the ones that bring the state into being. Their physical action brings the state's dictates into physical manifestation. So
they're the boot.
Yeah, they're the boot stamping on your face for eternity. So I don't know how conservative. That's the biggest danger for me. What do you think, Daniel?
Well, on the cop thing, I like Higgs's quote that there are no good cops because every cop has sworn duty to uphold unjust laws. But I actually do know a couple of cops who are half decent, and well, they're decent because they quit. And one of them is a friend of ours in the Libertarian Union as well, and he's his show is The Battle for Liberty, and it's really good. He's a great guy. But as far as the conservatives, I think that they tend to be better on economic issues and be more sympathetic to the free market, though they do fall down in the military front. And they're always still growing government, still growing regulations, still growing spending and things like that. So it is like the Malice quote, you know, they're just a little bit slower than the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, conservatives, they disappoint me when it comes to that kind of thing, because you're like, you're there, but then when like about the police and the military, like
that's how I feel about the left too, though. They're really good sometimes when it comes to being anti-war or with the police thing, but then they bring in the social justice part, and you're like, oh, you're almost there.
Yeah, you're almost there. Like, you just need to step over that line. Because I see it too, like, you know, whenever you see like those cop videos, you're like, well, they I mean, if they were just, you know, they should have just followed the orders, you know, they I mean, you know, if you just complied, you know, I mean, well, yeah, you can talk about, you know, the Nazi soldiers. Well, I mean, you know, they were just following orders, you know, I mean, you know, the Nuremberg defense. So,
Well,
I mean,
I don't want to. I'm an individualist, so I don't want to cast collective blameworthiness on a bunch of people. I think you have to take every individual as they are. But at the same time, the Robert Higgs quote, you know, they've all agreed to enforce every law, whether it's just or unjust. So I don't know how. I think it's Stockholm syndromes, libertarians that support police and military, or you'll get like 3%ers that are super pro Second Amendment, but they love cops who will be the ones to come and take their guns. And there's some cognitive dissonance there. The cops will come take your guns, whether the cops believe in the Second Amendment or not. They're going to do what they're fucking told. And they've illustrated that over and over and over and over and over and over again. So we can't trust cops. We can't trust military. Even if some members of the police and military are libertarian, I think the vast majority of them will do what the fuck they're told, and they will do it because they feel like they have to. I think the anomaly of some police and military becoming libertarians is because they've seen the true nature of the state. They've seen it. I know a lot of military people who have seen firsthand the waste and bloat and horrible moral atrocities propagated by the military, and that has turned them into libertarians. I've known very liberal people who have become libertarians because they've been in the military and they've seen what we've done. I'm talking city blocks of burning equipment, perfectly fine equipment that was burning in the burn pits in Afghanistan, city blocks full of millions of dollars worth of equipment burning, putting carcinogens into the air. In 20 years, we're going to have a bunch of soldiers that have cancer because they were around these burn pits in Afghanistan. So seeing that firsthand, I think, would turn a lot of police and military into libertarians. I think that's the anomaly there.
Yeah, I know Scott Horton had someone talking how to they had like a documentary about that specific subject, burn pits.
Yeah.
You know, they're coming home and they get sick because of it, and then they die, you know, sooner than they're supposed to, or you know, whatever. But yeah, that's a really bad issue. And you know, it's funny too, because you see, like you're saying, millions of dollars of equipment is burning. It's like, well, they don't even give a shit. How much was that? $5 million? Who cares? It's burning. Who cares? I mean, it's just like, really, like you don't care about wasting all that money for hurting people, killing people. You know, that's why sometimes, like when I see people when they talk about military and how, you know, people dying or whatever, and they're just like, oh, regime change. You know, what's so scary about regime change? And I'm like, we've seen it. We've seen the atrocities of how it goes. I mean, you see, like, you know, I mean, it's funny too, because you mentioned, like, you know, Saddam Hussein and what happened to him. Oh my God, I can't be for defending him. I'm not defending that guy. That guy's evil. But you see what's going on in their country right now, and it's almost like maybe he's still there, maybe, but no, he's not. But it's like he is, because it's worse than what it is. Libya, like you were mentioning, Libya, Iraq, Iran could possibly be one of those countries. Syria, even. I mean, just recently they were saying that an American soldier died in Somalia. What are we doing in Somalia? What are we still doing in a country that has absolutely no way of coming to America unless someone flew them here?
Yeah.
I mean, in Nigeria too, fucking politicians didn't even know we had the soldiers in Nigeria. I mean, really? It's like secret wars that people are fighting, and we don't even know. You know, I mean, how would you feel? You know, and I see this, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about when I talk about it. But when you see like a map of Iran, you see how many bases we have around that country. Well, how would you feel if like Iran had a whole bunch of bases around us, or like, you know, like whatever cities you guys live in? Imagine if like Iran or any other country that we're supposedly fighting or whoever, Russia, name a country, and they had bases around it. Would you feel comfortable like around that? I don't think so. You'd be like, man, they could kill us any day, any minute, but our house be gone. You know? But you tell it to someone, well, I mean, you know, we're supposed to support the troops and the military. You know, and it's just like, you know what? I mean, I don't know if I can take you seriously anymore.
Well, they shouldn't have put their country so close to our military bases.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think I saw that on a Mance Raider meme once. That guy's the meme king.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, it's such a I don't know how to put it in words, but you know, people advocating for, you know, because people, when they say like, you know, World War III can happen if we attack Iran or whatever, that's a possibility. That's not me saying I'm, you know, the end all be all. It's not like I'm saying the world's going to end, but that's a legit possibility. And then people are like, oh, World War III is going to happen? Get the fuck out of here. I'm like, really? You really? That's like, that doesn't even pop in your head that could possibly happen. We've had two already. What's not to say there's going to be a third one?
Yeah, not too long ago either. I mean, in the span of human existence, not too long ago.
Yeah.
People are very used to the posh lives that we have in the United States. And yeah. So, well, I don't want to keep you guys all night. There was one topic I wanted to touch on before we left. And that's kind of why I asked you guys what your ideal society would look like. That's just because the way this is our activism right here with me and Daniel, is just that we think that everyone should have a voice. Everyone should be online. Everyone should be talking, whether you have your own podcast or whether you're doing your own live streams like you guys are doing. In the reason I frame it in this way all the time is that in the American Revolution, leading up to the revolution, there were pamphlets. This is well documented that pamphlets were all over the colonies. They were very thin little sheets of paper. Through the printing press, you could print a whole bunch and throw them out. And it wasn't only very famous figures like Thomas Paine who was writing pamphlets. He wrote Common Sense, the most famous pamphlet. But everyone was pamphleteering, and some of them were just by, you know, very basic run-of-the-mill people. Literacy rates were super high. And part of the revolutionary fervor was that everyone was involved with these pamphlets. People would have arguments in like an old school Twitter style between pamphlets they would write to each other. There was a national conversation happening. We need to be part of that. The libertarian movement has to have that, I think. And if we're going to affect grassroots change, everyone has to have their own voice. I want everyone to start a podcast. I want everyone to speak on the internet. We have the modern day equivalent of the Gutenberg printing press, and we need to be using that. So we have kind of started the Libertarian Union as a confederation of podcasts. It's more of a business association, but we're inviting small L libertarian ANCAPs of the Misesian Austrian school tradition to come join us. It only costs you one plug on your podcast per episode, our plug, but that's about it. So we're out here, we're working. It's a bunch of normal ass guys just like you and me. And we're just trying to spread the messages of liberty and have a conversation. So you want to add to that, Daniel? I know Daniel and we kind of started it, didn't we? Can we claim that we founded the LU?
Sure, why not? No one else is homesteading it.
Yeah, yeah.
But to your point, Patrick, starting your own podcast is easier than ever. In fact, our new version of the show called Last Nighters is a normie-friendly cut of our actual Anarchy show. And it's our attempt to get more outreach, to get people who are familiar with movies to hear some concepts from Austrian economics and libertarianism. So it's like a bit of a red pill, like slip it in, sneak it in. But we have that feed on Anchor.fm. And Anchor.fm allows you to have free podcast hosting. And you can actually build the podcast on the app, and you can record it on your phone. So it's easier than ever to start a podcast. So I would just recommend people check that out. And if you do, look for us, The Last Nighters, on there, and you can send us messages and even 1-minute clips that we can incorporate into the show. So we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we're definitely want to start a podcast, and in addition to the live streams.
Mm-hmm. Or we just talk about stuff.
Yeah, because usually these live streams are like kind of like letting the guests talk, and then whenever I go on my spaz moments, whatever.
Yeah, we try to talk to people of all different political views. We haven't gotten someone to come on who's very left leaning, but we are looking for people like that because I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah,
podcast would be more focused on.
Yeah, just our opinions, I guess, and how we view. Like how I'm sure how your podcast like that too. This is how I think about this, and But anyway, yeah, I know you guys. It's been a long night. We've been doing this for almost 2 hours now, I believe, or even more than that. So it's been a good discussion. We definitely would love to. We're gonna definitely check out you guys' stuff, and we'd definitely like to join you guys too whenever you want to invite us. We'll be there.
Yep, or if you want to come back.
Yeah, definitely. My door is always open. I'm very amenable to guests, although I'm currently studying for the bar and I should be doing that instead. But yeah, would definitely. I'm glad that you guys invited me and Daniel on, and really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone that's watching and who are new to us, we have a Patreon. So if you want to donate to us, you can. We also have a website, oppositeprimacy.com. Pretty much just, we're still working on it, but it's pretty much just our live streams posted on there. Then we're also going to be doing some blog posts.
Yep, we have some guest writers coming up too, so look out for that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it. If you guys want to plug anything else, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys for having me. The invite was very much appreciated, and I run actualanarchy.com, readrothbard.com, lastnighters.com, Black&Gold, Conquest of Bread, among others. But do check out our show, lastnighters.com, and the Actual Anarchy podcast. The next episode is Planet of the Apes, the 50th anniversary with Chuck Heston. So check it out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely have to check that one out. So yeah, thanks guys again for joining us. We'll definitely do this again sometime soon.
Yeah. Let me just for me, libertyweekly.net is it. I was recently blessed by Scott Horton, who invited me to post my episodes on the libertarianinstitute.org.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome.
So, yeah, thanks, dude. I'm so thrilled, and it's such an honor for to see my writing and my work appear alongside people like John W. Whitehead, Sheldon Richman, and Scott Horton. It's fucking cool. It's so fucking cool. So yeah, libertyweekly.net. That's about it. Otherwise, libertarianinstitute.org. So yeah, thanks again.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Bye.